we got a nice layer of soft soil there. It gets hard if we get way down there, but we've got at least 4 or 5 inches of nice, rich, soft soil there to plant our onions in. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? I hope everybody out there is having a fantastic day. It is Saturday, October 29th here in South Georgia. Got a nice, cool, overcast day today. Good day to be outside. We got just a couple hours before we got to call the dogs on them little baby alligators. So we got a little time to do a few things in the garden. First, we want to talk about our ever-changing plans here and our future onion plot. Show you what we've been doing to kind of get that ready to plant onions in the next week or so. And then we're going to do a little planting. We got some more cover crops to get in the ground, and I'll give you an update on the cover crop we planted a few weeks ago. So for our future onion plot right behind me here, I feel like I have changed my mind about how I'm going to do this so many times I've lost count. So initially my plan was let the chickens make 2 rounds around this plot, knock down that pearl millet pretty good, till it in like I would usually do in these tilled plots, and then plant my onions. Well, then I kind of changed my mind a little bit. I said, we'll let the chickens make 2 rounds, and then maybe we'll put a layer of those composted wood chips on top like we did in one of our other plots and like we used in our raised beds. And then I thought, well, I still have got a little bit of time left. Maybe I'll just let the chickens make 1 more round, and I won't really have to do hardly anything at all before we plant our onions. So that's where we're at now. I've decided to let the chickens make 1 more round on this plot here before we plant our onions. And there were several reasons for why we chose that route. So one, I wanted to see if with 3 rounds on the plot, if the chickens could completely terminate this millet by themselves, maybe with a little bit of help. I'll talk about that in a minute, but to see if they could get it pretty dang clean, ready to plant after 3 rounds on the plot. The second reason has to do with this cover crop behind me here where the chickens will go next. This is not ready yet. It's not tall enough, not established enough for them to graze it. So we still got a little time before this is ready, and doesn't really do me any good to have the chickens bumping around in the yard. I'd rather have them in one of the garden plots. So still got a little time before this is ready to graze, and we've also got a little time before we really got to get onions in the ground. Any time in November will be fine, but you know, first week of November or middle of November, doesn't really matter. So I'm not in a huge hurry to get them in the ground right on the 1st of November. And another thing to consider timing wise is that I don't need the chickens to be completely finished on their 3rd round before I can plant onions. I'm not so sure I'm going to fill this entire plot with onions, maybe just half this plot. We'll just see how many onions I feel like planting. So if they're over here on this far side of the plot, that's fine. I can still plant plenty of onions right here while they're finishing up over there. So this first lane right here is where they have been 3 times now, and on that second lane there, they're almost finished up with their 3rd round right there. So you can see here, this is pretty dang clean. Got a little bit of debris out there, a few little shavings that they usually kick around in their box that land on the soil, not a big deal, but this right here is ready to plant. Now it's been really dry here over the last couple months, and normally this soil right here in this plot would be kind of baked and crusted over with as dry as it's been. But with the cover crop in here and the chickens grazing it, we got a nice layer of soft soil there. It gets hard if we get way down there, but we've got at least 4 or 5 inches of nice, rich, soft soil there to plant our onions in. Don't really need any kind of tillage at all here. We can plant right into that. Now I mentioned earlier that I've had to give them a little bit of help. So let me tell you why and how I've been doing that. So in this, approximately 2/3 of the plot where they've only been twice, haven't grazed this 3 times yet, we can see still a little bit of that millet stubble there. Not a lot of it, but some of it out there. And then you can also see a good bit of this millet mulch on top of the soil there, which is great to have, but that right there is going to make it a little tough for me to get in here, lay drip tape, and plant my onions. So it would behoove me to have that mixed into the soil a little bit. It would also help to have that chicken manure mixed in just a little bit. From my experiences, it works a little bit better if you have it mixed into the soil a little bit. So we've had to help them out. So what I've been doing as those chickens have been bumping along here from my left to my right is coming in here about every 3 or 4 days, taking the wheel hoe with this little blade attachment here and just running along and clearing another lane for the chicken tractor to go down. So basically all I'm doing is flipping over any millet that's left out there and flipping over some of that thick mat of organic matter there, just kind of flipping the first inch or two of soil, not getting real deep. That really helps the chickens finish what they need to do in this plot. So while we're out here, let me go ahead and wheel hoe one more lane for them, because they'll be turning the corner in the next day or so, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Now you may be wondering, Trav, why are you just doing 6 or 8 feet at a time? Why don't you just go ahead and do that whole plot? Well, that mat of roots in that plot from that cover crop is really thick, and it is hard to push through there even with that sharp blade. So about 8 feet at the time is all I want. So that's why I've just been coming in here as I need to, clear another lane for the chickens, let them go down that lane and clear another lane. I don't really want to do this whole plot at one time. So to give you a closer view here, this is what it looks like after I've been through there once with the wheel hoe, just kind of slicing through that first couple inches of soil, not really disturbing a whole lot, just lightly flipping some of that stuff over there. After we do that, the chickens go over it, and then it looks like this right here, nice and ready to plant. Yeah, there's some organic matter in there, but not enough to really get in the way of me laying tape and planting onions. So we've had quite a few different plans for this future onion plot here. This is the plan we've settled on. This is also the plan with the least amount of effort required by us. We're letting the chickens do all the work here, letting that free tiller do all the work. And so far, I'm really liking how it's turned out. And speaking of onions, our onion transplants in the greenhouse here are looking really, really nice. These later ones we planted are due for a haircut. I think I've given this tray 2 haircuts so far. Maybe that one there has gotten 2 haircuts as well. This one has gotten 1 haircut, and I could probably plant these right now if I wanted to. I'm going to let them get a little bigger, a little stronger before we stick them in the ground, but really tickled at how well they're looking so far. So now that we've set the stage for our onion planting in the next couple weeks, we need to plant a cover crop in this big area right here. But before we do, let's take a little closer look at that first cover crop we planted and see how it's doing. So this is the first cool season cover crop we planted, and this is where the chickens will go next after they finish up with their final work on that future onion plot over there. So this is a mix we got from green cover seed called the Overwintering mix, and it's starting to fill in the gaps pretty nicely. It was a little sparse at first, but that's how these mixes usually go. Once these plants get up and growing a little bit, they'll cover up all those gaps there, and we'll just have a nice lush cover over the entire plot. So if we take a closer look here, we can see all the different things in that mix that's growing right now. So first of all, we've got our Balanza clover right here. That's the smallest plant in this plot right now. That stuff takes a little while to get up and going, but it's pretty vigorous once it does. Then right here, we've got the rapeseed. That's pretty easy to identify. Right here is a winter pea plant, and then we can also see some vetch right here. And I'm not really able to distinguish between the rye and barley at this point. I know it's this tall grassy stuff right here that grows really, really fast, but I can't really tell a difference between the two. Now usually I don't water these cover crops very much once I get them germinated, get them up and going, especially this time of year when it's a little cooler outside, things are not drying out as fast, the water needs or the water demands aren't that much. The case has been a little bit different here because we're trying to push this plot a little bit. I need this to be nice and established and thick whenever the chickens get done on that onion plot, and we need to put them over here. So I've been watering this a lot more than I usually would. Been giving it a nice little splash for the overhead sprinkler about every other day. I'd say every 2 to 3 days, giving it a nice little splash, really pushing the growth on this because I need it to be well established before we put the chickens on there. And then thinking way far ahead, when the chickens are done grazing this, probably, end of this year, early 2023, then we'll put them right over here on this big plot. But we got to plant something here first. Now I did come in here and rake this out and till it. This spot right here wasn't in too bad a shape. I did rake out some of the straw, left some of the straw there. I just didn't feel like getting all that out of there. Some of it's kind of pinned down to the soil pretty good. We'll just work around that straw right there. Over here where we had that glass gem corn a while back, we had a lot of corn debris in here. So I had to rake it out, chop it up a little bit with a tiller just so I can drag a rake through here and get some good seed to soil contact on this cover crop. Now on that 30 by 35 plot in the Dream Garden, we planted what was called the Overwintering mix from green cover seed, and it had all those different things in there that I showed you earlier. Planting a little different mix here today. This mix actually has a lot more stuff in it. Some of the stuff is more warm season stuff in my opinion, but they call this a cool season soil builder. Let me go through what all is in it. So you've got brown flax, super bee phacelia, nitro radish, trophy rapeseed, Florida broadleaf mustard, spring oats, spring barley, spring forage pea, Dixie crimson clover, common vetch, and black oil sunflower. I don't think the sunflower is really going to have much time to do anything, but most of this stuff in this mix should thrive throughout the winter months down here. So a lot of good things in this mix, and I really like the fact that it has the Florida broadleaf mustard in there. When that is incorporated into the soil, eventually that's going to give us some nice biofumigation, which will help with nematodes, especially where we had all those tomatoes planted this past spring. Now the recommended broadcast rate for this cool season soil builder mix is 95 pounds per acre. I've got about a 40 by 60 area behind me here, so let's just say about 2,500 square feet. You know me, I always like to plant it real thick because we need it thick and dense to hold up to that chicken grazing. So I've got a 25-pound bag here, and we're going to use a whole 25-pound bag over this 40 by 60 spot. Oh, and I should mention, just in case you didn't catch that video, when we planted that overwintering mix, we talked about all the benefits of planting cover crops, why we plant cover crops, especially in the cooler months. If you didn't catch that video, I'll try to put a card up here somewhere. You can also find it on our channel. I think it's titled 6 Reasons to Plant Cover Crops or something like that. So I'm not going to rehash all those reasons. I will go through this little list right here that's on Green Cover Seeds website for this particular mix. They list a couple specific benefits for this cool season soil builder mix. So obviously it's going to convert atmospheric nitrogen, make that available to other plants because it does have some legumes in it. It says it will improve soil aggregation and water infiltration, so water can get deeper into the soil profile. It's going to have a deep tap root on some of these plants. It's going to help break up the soil, kind of aerate the soil. It's got some pollinators in it, or pollinator plants in it, that's going to attract beneficial insects, and it says it leaves no room for weeds to grow, which is something I like to hear. Now, since this mix does have legumes or nitrogen fixing crops in it, that means we need to inoculate it, provide the bacteria that those legumes need to fix their own nitrogen. And because I've got 25 pounds here, it'd be hard to mix in a standard 5-gallon bucket. So we're going to inoculate, mix the inoculant onto the seeds in this wider bucket here, this wide shallow bucket, and then we'll pour that into our dog's bucket to throw the seed, because cover crops just grow better when they're thrown out of a dog's bucket. Everybody knows that. So first, let's pour our seeds here. go. And the inoculant was included with the seeds, which is always nice. This right here, I can't remember how many pounds this does. This does 50 pounds of seed. One thing about inoculant, it doesn't store well from year to year. You really need to use it all in 1 year. And so I'm just going to go ahead and use all this because I'm really not going to need it for anything else. I have more inoculant for one more 10-pound bag of cover crop seed that we'll be planting later this fall or winter. So I'm going to sprinkle all this in here. I get it all out of the bag there. So a little more than is recommended, but not going to hurt anything. And we're going to put some water in here. And then we'll start mixing it around. All right, that should be pretty good. Got everything evenly coated. Now we're just going to pour this in our dog's bucket and get to strowing some seed.
Oh, it's sweeter the first time around. Oh, it's sweeter the time here and now. Oh, it's sweeter.
All right, all right, all right. So we got that planted there, got it raked in as good as we can. It's still a little chunky over there where that corn is. So not, you know, the smoothest raking job I've ever done after planting a cover crop, but we planted enough seeds where we still should get a pretty good stand there. So that's 2 cover crop plots down, probably got 2 more to go still at some point where our pumpkins and fall taters are. Once that's out of there, we'll plant a cover crop there, probably that overwintering mix. That's what I have inside, another 10 pounds of that. And then over there where that Ruiz okra is, once it gets bit back by the frost, once we're done harvesting all those pods for seed, we'll chop that down and then do some mustard biofumigation on that plot, which is always what we like to do after we have an okra grow out. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Felt good to get some stuff done in the short amount of time we had out here this afternoon. And let me know in the comments below what you think about my free tiller over there. I think it's doing a pretty good job. Doesn't require any gas. Requires a little chicken food every now and then. It's a little slower, but it does the trick. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out our affiliate links below. A lot of great companies that we use in our gardens here at Lazy Dog Farm. Even got some coupon codes for some of those companies so you can take advantage of those discounts. Don't forget to go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com, where we've got lots of good blogs, recipes, hats, shirts, recommended products, all kind of good stuff over there. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like, and share. And we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell. By the beauty of your life,